What's up, everyone? My name is Blue, and we are back with some ProRevenge stories. These dishes are coming straight from the freezer. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing to the channel. And with that, let's get into it. Landlord thinks I owe 8 months of rent. Didn't know? I knew tenant laws. Okay, not sure this goes here, but here it goes. This took place during the middle of 2018. Me, my wife, and 3 kids were looking for a new place to rent because our current renter was selling and had given us a 60 notice to move. During this time, my wife's mother had a friend. Let's call him Sam. Sam had a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house that he was in the middle of remodeling to get ready to sell. Because of this, certain parts of the house, like some of the walls, weren't fully painted, and some of the floors were old. At the current time, my family really needed a place to stay, and our budget wouldn't allow us to rent any places over $1,000 a month. Keep in mind, I am a disabled veteran and have a lot of time to sit and research things when I need to. First part, signing the lease and getting the keys. During the lease signing, we went over to the house for Sam to point out all the things that were being worked on and what things weren't complete when we were moving in. For example, the kitchen floor was being replaced, the kitchen counter, carpet was being added throughout the whole house, currently all wood floors. When we got there, we pointed out that there was still trash all over the floor and bug traps all over the ground. He assured us that it would all be cleaned before we moved in. So we hand over our deposit and sign the lease for $1,000 a month. He says that he is going on vacation out of state and won't be back for 6 months, but that contractors will be stopping by to work on the house. He leaves me a list of the work that is going to be done, and then we wait. Move-in date. 3 days later, we are given the go-ahead that we are able to move in and that he will be back in 6 months. We arrive at the house to find his 2 cars and motorcycle in the driveway with nowhere but the street for us to park. This becomes very important later in court. The house is still just as dirty as the day we signed the lease. But with us really needing a place to stay, me and my wife just take pictures and note everything wrong and get to cleaning. Now, remember, this was a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house. However, the owner left so much stuff in the house that the 4th bedroom was filled from wall to wall with junk. We decided to just close that door and not use the room. Keep in mind that because we didn't have access to the room because of the owner landlord, we were allowed to deduct that room from the rent. The deduction of rent becomes a pattern soon. Living there. Now, we lived there a total of 9 months. During the first 6 months, we tried to get a hold of the landlord by phone with a way to pay rent. But we never got a reply from him after the day we got the keys. So, everything that went wrong, we just kept track of. Place had bugs, nails sticking out of the floors, and many other hazards. Finally, on the 7th month, Sam returns from his vacation out of state and retrieves one of the cars in the drive. Tells us he's sorry for not responding and tells us we will figure out the rent and fixing my issues over the next week. On month 8, I still haven't paid him anything, as I sent him a letter stating that I would be withholding rent until the safety issues with the house are fixed. Where we live, this is legal. During this time, instead of just fixing the issues and then getting rent from me, we are served with an eviction notice. Keep in mind, we have kept records of everything wrong with this house, including everything to code. Time in court. First red flag in the eviction is the copy of the lease that was attached. It was an altered copy of the original I still had, so the documents didn't even match. So let's do a little math. Each month I withheld rent, I gave a detailed invoice of all the charges I'm reducing the rent by. I send all of this in the return on the eviction, and guess who shows up to the house 5 days before court? You bet it's Sam. He starts yelling at the front door, telling me to give him my debit card so that he can go get my rent out right now. I calmly tell him that even though he is the owner and landlord, that under the current laws, he must give me a 24-hour notice before being on the property unless it is an emergency. I call the cops so that I can document that he showed up and tried to scare me into giving him money on the spot. 5 days later, we show up at court and his lawyer walks over to me and presents me with a deal. He tells me that his client, Sam, would like to just have me move out in 2 weeks and call the debt even. I tell him no thank you, and we can talk about it with the judge. I present everything on my part, hundreds of photos and invoices from each month about my rent reduction, plus all the safety violations. 1 room with no access, $250 a month for 9 months. 2. Work cleaning and taking care of the pool. Was in lease to have pool guy? Never showed. $100 a month times 9 months. 3. Lawn care. Also in lease to be provided. $50 a month for 9 months. 4. Storage for 1 motorcycle. $25 a day for 9 months. 5. Storage for 1 car. $55 a day times 9 months. 6. Storage for 1 car. $55 a day times 7 months. He picked this one up after vacation. Safety violations. No CO2 detector in the house. No working smoke alarms. All windows are supposed to have screens. Most were broken or missing. Because of pool and no fence around it, back door needed alarm to beep when opened. It's a county safety code. Exposed wires on most electric outlets. Ceiling fans not installed but wires just exposed. Improper foundation for rear stairs leading out back door. No license for enclosed backyard room. Had a 30-foot by 20-foot area off the back door, which was enclosed by a screened area. County required a license for anything that was attached to the house. Also, the piled up junk in the 4th bedroom was considered a fire hazard. Now, I picked the rate per day to store the vehicles at the house because legally, I could have had them towed off the property even though they are the owners. This is the rate the impound lot would have charged per a day the vehicle was in the lot. This added up to a total invoice of $36,750. The $9,000 we owe for rent leaving $27,750 owed. After hearing both sides, the judge ruled in my favor, giving my landlord 3 options. 1. He could pay me $9,999, the max allowed in small claims court here, and I would have 7 days to be off of the property. Number 2. He could give me a normal 30 notice to vacate, and I wouldn't pay anything, and he would return my deposit in full within 24 hours after keys are returned. Or 3. I could continue to live there, but no rent would be owed until all safety issues were fixed and his stuff on the property removed. He chose to go with option 2. On a side note, found out from my wife's mother about a year after we moved out, some of the shady upgrades he did to the house caused a house fire and it burned down. This wasn't anything I did, but it felt so good to know that karma gets you in the end. I mean, I get that this Sam guy is probably a shady character to begin with, but after that list of what was wrong with the place, how could anyone feel okay letting a family of 5 live in a place like that with exposed wires everywhere? That's terrifying. And that's all the time we have for this ProRevenge story. If you like this story, make sure to click that like button. and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future stories. Thanks for listening, everyone. Catch you later.